Hello, welcome to another video. And today we're looking at the Deadbug exercise. Quite a popular abdominal core exercise, and it has some benefits to using it, but it's not really a personal favourite of mine, and I'll explain why. So firstly, what does it look like? So this is the basic version, which is on the floor, where it really is the opposite of the horse stance or quadruped, bird dog, whatever you want to call it. And it's the supine version of that, where you're extending opposite arm and leg at the same time to get some isolation work through the abdominal region. In this case, it's really known for trying to stabilize an extension. So in this position here, so the hip is moved into extension, and so has the opposite side with the thoracic. So the thoracic spine is into extension as well, because this arm is moved into extension. So where often people are using this is because they're seeing too much lumbar spine extension, so lordosis, and it's really attracting a lot of attention for its, people saying weak core and all this sort of stuff, and to some degree it does. I think it's heavily overrated. And if you did have a problem here, I think most people would struggle with just the abdominal of just moving the legs. So, and I know that for a fact because it's what we usually do on an assessment, and I've done many videos on that before, where the lower abdominal is really just, so if I just take this video back, so the lower abdominal, where I've got both arms on the ground, heads resting on the ground, so arms are out here, and just in this position, moving both feet to the floor and back. I find if a person is really struggling with this, that's all I need to do. If I add the extra part of it with that arm going into extension as well, there's nearly a near impossible chance of them being able to correct this, because now they've got to control the thoracic spine as much as the weight of the leg pulling the pelvis into extension this way, and then the thoracic pulling it that way. They've got like zero chance. So I really just, if I want to work on the lumbar spine, I'm just going to work on the pelvis. If I'm going to forget the thoracic part entirely, and I'll use something different for that later on. But and so moving on to the second part of why I don't like this is when we start to really challenge it and bring it into, so in this case Mel was about to demonstrate a more of an aggressive type of dead bug. And I find if I am going to do this aggressively, if I'm going to train, say a person doesn't have an injury and I want to sort of throw in some variety with the anterior core, I'll definitely use the Bosu to do this. This will really bring in a huge challenge. And if you lose any part of your abdominal control in this, you're going to bounce right off it. All right, so you have to stay curled up in a ball. So you can see that she has to stay like this. Her head and that will have to be tucked in. So this is where the rectus abdominis is really contracting heavily by providing trunk flexion. All right, so as she extends her arm and her leg, she just can't afford to lose any extension like she did then, because if she extends too far this way, she's going to fall to the floor that way. If she extends too far this way, vice versa, going to fall that way. So the only way to execute this exercise perfectly is to stay curled in the ball, and hence all this rectus abdominis is going to get hammered. Now, while that sounds like a good idea, and people say, oh, my core's getting stronger, you're just creating a huge amount of problems potentially for the back and the hip. And you see she's losing control there, but all I need to do to get her to correct that is just do the lower abdominal exercise, if we establish that it's mainly from the pelvis that she's screwing it up from. All right, so the huge problems with overdoing these exercises where you are stuck in a ball, because this is where the herniated discs will happen, and this is where the hip impingements, because you're moving the femur too far forward, which I've done many videos recently about that, spoken about it many times. But probably not an exercise that's going to destroy you straight away, but it might build poor postural habits that ruin the exercise, such as the deadlift, where if any of this trunk flexion stuff goes on, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. All right, and I would rate the deadlift as a far superior core exercises than this ever will be. All right, and I don't care how much the abdominals burn, because they're not meant to burn when we do the key integrated movements that we would use when we need it the most. It's really just there as a set of muscles to just stabilise you and position you correctly to move your arms and legs, not to be annihilated with endless amounts of tension and ridiculous amount of volume. Right, so it's not really one of my personal favourite exercises, but if you like it and you find that you can still move well in the other things, maybe you'll get a lot out of it. Personally, I find I can get the benefit of training that area in much better ways in a standing up exercise. But so anyway, if you want to use it as a performance one, the BOSU is a better choice than the floor. And yeah, and I hope this video gives you a bit of an insight into the pros and cons of the Deadbug exercise. All right, I hope you enjoy that. See you in our next one.